Good evening, Drew.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
How are you? You seem a
It's
little
been a long
down.
week.
Uh, Yeah?
It's
Yeah?
yeah, Mandy. So we're recording on a Saturday.
Mhm.
Mandy was it was my turn to be alone while my better half traveled
Okay.
for vacation. She was on her yearly trip to South or mid Florida with
Okay.
her mom, and I just was here all week. I was working, and Rocky's a pretty high maintenance dog right now, and it's just
Yes.
work all
Yeah.
day, and then you got to take care of him and his schedule, and he was all confused, extra confused, so he was up a lot, and it's just she's back now, and I'm hoping we can get him back on a pretty regular schedule, and
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
just I'm just like super exhausted. How are you?
I'm also a little tired.
Okay.
Uh I don't know if you caught, but the internet kind of took a big giant shit early Friday morning, and
I
yeah,
wondered if
yeah.
that was going to affect you guys.
Uh-huh. You sure did. Sure did. It sure did, Drew. It sure did. Uh
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, we should
we
let,
are a
let
CrowdStrike customer.
Okay.
Woo!
So, yeah, boy, that was something, huh?
It sure was.
So,
Oh, yeah.
all right.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
I guess that's kind of relevant news, right? Because it
Uh-huh.
definitely affects what you do for a living.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
think what would be helpful here
Mhm,
is I think that most people listening to this by now are aware of what kind of happened this week and
mhm,
how this particular bug brought down Windows machines. Some people
mhm.
blame Microsoft. It's not necessarily
I don't
Microsoft's
think it was
fault, but
Microsoft's fault at all.
no,
No,
it's not.
no, no, it's not.
But
No.
it definitely highlighted how much of the world still continues to run on Windows for critical IT
Dude,
systems.
more than I expected, to be honest.
Yeah. That to
So,
me,
yeah.
that to me is the bigger takeaway here because if you think about all of the major systems for interchanging data, right? I have a really good friend of mine whose partner works for a hospital chain, and
Yeah.
they were sort of describing how they have a system set up now where if you go get an x-ray, there's a doctor somewhere that can pull up your medical record and review your x-ray, right? Like
Mhm.
Ohio Health does that, and I've been subject to that when I hurt my ankle earlier this year. I got an x-ray in urgent care, but a doctor, I think somewhere else in Ohio, was the one that reviewed my radiology
Yeah,
and
yeah.
gave the answer back to the nurse in the ER, right? Like technology's great and it works when it works, but um, you know, healthcare specifically, and I guess I'll kind of start like with the work that I do. I work almost exclusively with healthcare customers now,
Okay.
and there are as you would imagine, there's major players in that space for things like electronic medical records and interchange data, and partners that help do integrations of legacy on-prem mainframe systems and old systems to kind of bring them up to cloud and or hybrid type scenarios. And there's one particular vendor that is extremely tied to the Microsoft ecosystem, both in terms of the I guess the serving software that the actual hosted application that you log into, if like your nurses and your doctors log into it, your doctor's office,
Right.
and then the backend systems that support the databases that do that. Those are all like a heavy Microsoft ecosystem. So like those customers got absolutely crushed by this.
Yeah.
Hospitals in particular, are particularly susceptible to malware attacks and ransomware attacks. And, now I think there's even regulations that they have to carry insurance against that. They have to show to auditors and
Yeah.
regulators that they are protected against that. And that's the space that this CrowdStrike software sort of plays in.
Yeah.
So a lot
Yeah.
of my customers were having a real bad day Friday. A lot of my meetings got canceled, which was just fine with me. But,
Yeah.
I felt bad for people that were affected. But I guess, I get, for you guys,
Mhm.
I know, at least from my time working there, obviously a lot of the systems on the back end were still
They
Windows,
are. Mhm.
but I didn't know if you guys had, moved away from that because you guys were looking at microservices and like Kubernetes and stuff like that. But I guess
I
tell
mean,
me, walk me
end
through
of the
what.
day, we still have a lot of Windows VMs, both in Azure and on an on-premise data center.
Okay.
And Yeah, it sucked. Though, I mean, granted, I mean, we have, I think, like between all of our environments, maybe like 1,000 virtual machines, right? Like you're talking like hospitals or like like there could be like tens of thousands, right, of machines to deal
Sure.
with. Like we're a much smaller scale. Uh, for those of you who don't know, like CrowdStrike is kind of like uh edge detection software. So it's like it's not quite virus software, but it does do that a little bit as well. It really gets its teeth into the operating system and looks for malicious activity. Anything someone who has ill intent can do on a server, CrowdStrike tries to look for it. And because of that, it is a piece of software that needs to be kept up to date. Like you have to keep it up to date, right? Because as they identify new attacks or new venues, they push out kind of like signature files to look for that kind of stuff. And that's what this was. It was like, you know, a signature file that got downloaded that had an oopsie in it, and it just made Windows machines, both servers and like Windows on your laptop machines, because that impacted us as well,
Mhm.
just just blue screen entirely. uh yes, and basically involved like, you know, booting into safe mode in Windows and deleting a file and going through, and like it for like on an individual, it's actually harder like on laptops because most Windows laptops use
BitLocker.
BitLocker, so you have to get the encryption key and get that in there, and like that can be tedious to type. Because like usually, like, you know, we
Uh-huh.
store BitLocker keys somewhere else, so you have to read it and like type it into the laptop to get past it. It's like on an individual machine it wasn't bad, it was just a matter of scale. uh Except for the Azure machines, that was actually much harder to deal with,
Ah,
because Microsoft doesn't give you a good way to.
get to safe mode.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Right.
So their guidance was, well, basically, one of the first
Keep
thing was,
rebooting.
yeah, we've heard that sometimes if you keep rebooting, it works. That didn't
Yeah,
work
the
for us.
oldest IT trick in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, and the advice was like maybe up to 15 times. We don't know, uh, or like try to copy the disk from one VM to a working VM to remove the file. We were having issues with that because of like protection groups and just shit like that. Like it was just a pain in the ass. So at some point we just said, fuck it, rebuild, we're going to rebuild them all. So
Yeah.
that's what we did for on the Azure side. Uh, I mean, we, our systems folks got notifications around like 1:30 p.m. I was personally up around 3 o'clock. Uh,
Oh, what you said 1:30 a.m. or p.m.?
a.m.
Okay.
a.m. 1:30 a.m. I was up at 3, like about 3:30 a.m. and we were ready, like we had production ready to go by 6 a.m. So we were ready for like the start of the business, and like we didn't have it like, you know, granted people came on, there like we had about like 60 employees whose laptops didn't, you know, turn on, and you know they had to walk through that, which is harder remote because you have to tell somebody,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, hold down this key on your laptop, all right, pick this, type in this, basically a GUID. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
like for a company of your size and
Hmm.
with the experience that you and the team have, and I say this because, you know, of having worked there and knowing at least how things worked when I were there, right? You guys had a really rigorous process about, you know, cattle not pets.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I'm sure you guys, you know, I'm just thinking in the back of my head of certain systems that were definitely pets.
We still have those.
But
Yeah, yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
those were probably the harder ones to deal with.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, when it comes to like virtual machines and, you know, the preservation of your data and redeploying code, like
Yeah,
that helps you kind
yeah.
of through those
Like, and
scenarios.
that was up and that was running a lot easier. We had some like, you know, all of our like back end monitoring, security, alerting systems, you know, those took longer to get online, but we prioritize, you know, hey, let's be ready for start of business. Let's get this stuff done. Let's focus on these, you know, like 24 servers we have to deal with to get, you know, production up and going. and that's what we did. And then we just did the rest throughout the day. And I mean, all things considered, we got. I mean, it sucked. Don't get me wrong, but we had it a lot better than a lot of other companies. I mean, dude, I just was seeing like Amazon deliveries was down.
Mhm.
Like they didn't do deliveries that day. FedEx, bunch of airlines, Starbucks.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was that was the thing that I guess concerned me the most, right? Because this all happened as Mandy was getting ready to travel home,
Oh yeah. Shit.
but like certain airlines were hit way worse than others. Certain airports were hit way worse than others. So she was in Orlando, and it seems like most of the systems for the airport were online. Southwest was not as deeply as affected as like Delta and United and American. So, and they weren't checking any bags or anything. So for them, it was just, getting to the airport, making sure that they could like get through the terminal and get through security and like get on their plane, which they could.
Cool.
So that was good. But like I was watching videos of there were some coworkers of mine that were traveling, and like they were taking videos of their phone of like walking through the airports, and like every store, every flight arrival board was blue screen, like just blue screens everywhere. And it was the closest thing to an apocalypse that I think we've had so far. Like literally everything was just blue screen.
I think it's what like all the pessimists thought Y2K was going to look like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm glad you guys were able to recover pretty quickly. And, like I said, some of my customers, I think, are still digging out of it. And yeah, it's tough, man. That is a tough thing because we're, and yes, I mean, look, it's definitely not Microsoft's fault, right? Like it was a bad update that got pushed and it happened. But the reality of it is that this particular update exists at such a deep level of how the computer actually works because modern software just can't detect and combat this stuff.
Oh yeah,
so
it has to get its hooks deep into the system to be able to do the kind of stuff it does.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, like in my professional career, I've dealt with a lot of like antivirus and security tools, and usually like they're usually fine, but there's always something where like they block something they shouldn't have, and it just gets in the way. I'll be blunt. CloudStrike is the best one I've ever worked with, hands down.
Yeah.
It detects what it needs to detect, and it doesn't detect. And if it's not sure, it doesn't do anything. It just alerts somebody to take a look. They ask a question. You say, no, it's fine. And it's great. Like it works really well. It just, oops.
Yep. Oopsie. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the important thing to understand here is this is not like Norton antivirus from the computer that you buy, right? This is industrial grade, dependent by governments, regulated industries, your Starbucks, like everybody relies on this stuff, and it has to work the way that it works because we as a species have any computers that are so susceptible to so many things that this is the only way that it really works. So yeah. Well, good for you guys. I'm glad that everything worked out. So my next pressing thing is how's The Wire coming along?
Good. I am halfway through season 2. Obviously it's going slower now that I have to
have a family.
Life. I will say I am still enjoying the show. I don't think granted, there's still 6 episodes to go. So far, I don't like season 2 as much as I like season 1. It's still good.
That's okay. It's okay.
Still good.
It's okay.
But yeah.
They're introducing some really important characters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
I really like Amy Ryan in that season. She's my favorite. She's my favorite person that entire season.
Okay.
Yeah, Beatty. She's just the best.
Yeah. She's good. Yeah.
And like I think that was before The Office, which I think most people know her from.
I'm not an Office person, so I never put that together.
Okay. Yeah, she had a really big role in the U.S. version of The Office, and I think that's probably what most people know her from. She was in something else really good too. I just can't remember what it is right now. But good. Okay, so you're season 3 you're gonna love. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said last time, I really kind of will reprioritize what I think are the strongest and weakest seasons of The Wire, and 2 is near the bottom. I will definitely concede that. So keep going.
I will.
Things
Yeah.
are going to accelerate towards the
Yeah,
end there.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm gonna keep. I like it's good. It's good. But
Mhm.
like by episode 4 of first season, I was like, oh my fucking god, let's go.
yeah, yep,
uh, yeah,
yeah. Watching Stringer try to rebuild everything.
yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Avon in jail.
Yeah, D. Yeah.
Yeah. How's D doing?
He's been better.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming when that
Mhm,
happened.
mhm. He's having a rough time in jail. I'll leave it in that.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay,
Mhm,
so going back to IT stuff now.
mhm.
This is a really interesting topic for me. So tell me what happened here.
So I'm sitting at my computer one night. I can't remember what I was doing, but I was on my computer late, and I checked my email. It's like I'll check my email, then I'm going to go to bed or something. And I check my email, and I see this warning from Synology about my NAS,
Uh-oh.
and it's like one of your drives has entered a critical warning state. Please log on and check things out immediately. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to have to deal with that. Like, should I just turn it off and deal with it tomorrow? But like, no, sometimes like if it's a hard drive, I know sometimes you turn them off and you're fucked. But like I know things are redundant, but it's still gonna be a giant pain.
Sure.
So I'm thinking hard disk, right? I'm thinking hard disk.
Okay.
So I go in and I look at Storage Manager and I look. So I have 4 8 gig or 8 terabyte drives, hard drives in there, and I also have 2 SSDs that I use as a read write cache.
Right, right.
It was one of the SSDs, and it
Oh.
was because so SSDs have like like hard coded into them what the manufacturer thinks the number of like writes you can do
Yeah,
to the
endurance.
disk
It's
are.
an endurance rating.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of my drives was at over 100%, and my other one was like at 99.
Wow.
Yeah, which I didn't never expected that. Like that's never happened before. I'm like, okay, I have had these for a long time, but they were just read write cache. So I just said like, hey, just get rid of the cache, just get rid of it. And it did take a little time because like it doesn't automatically always flush the disk, especially for writes from the SSD to the hard drive immediately.
Mhm.
So I just said like, hey, like just dissolve it. It says, like, hey, this depending on how much data is on here, this could take a little bit. I'm like, fine. It took like 6 minutes, and it was like, hey, everything's off the SSDs now, and I just dissolved the cache pool, and went on my merry way. So now it has me like just thinking just how old all these hard drives in here. So now I got to figure out what I'm gonna do. Like, do I put new SSDs in there? Do I just roll without the cache? Do I buy new
Well, that's what I
drives?
wanted.
Do I buy new Synology? What do I do?
Well, okay, so I want to tackle those questions in order. So I guess my first question is like the model that I bought, I don't think supports having an SSD cache.
Mhm.
And to be frank with you, I I don't think I need it. I mean, my Synology is mostly a time machine backup and physical backup for important documents that I will manually copy things to for like my business or other stuff like stuff that I want to particularly archive or like image like OS images or stuff
Right.
like that, right? Like so a place I can just drop that. It supports SMB and NFS, and I can connect to it from anything when I want to do an install. And then I have like the media server on there, and I have my surveillance station, like my IP cameras are all tied to it too. I've never once encountered a situation where I felt like I was waiting for the discs to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I have noticed that, like, because I'm a backup weirdo. Like, my time machine backups do take a little bit longer now, but that's probably fine. It's probably fine.
But like, how
Uh,
much longer?
well, these are incrementals, right? So they usually take like 10 minutes. Maybe they're taking 15 now. Like, meh, meh. It's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
fine. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, because I really wrestled when I landed on the model of the Synology that I upgraded to when I replaced the one that I had. I wrestled with that because I mean, I you are not the only person I know that uses a Synology and also has the SSD cache. And I always wondered, is that worth it? And I think for my particular use cases, like I don't keep a lot of physical data on my Mac for my Time Machine backups. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and my media server, like, okay, maybe it takes a second or two to buffer a 4K movie when I'm watching it, but like on my Wi-Fi or to like my Apple TVs that are hardwired, like I'm not sure that I'm going to gain anything by having that personally.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the bigger question is yeah, so if this had been like an actual disk failure,
Whew.
or you're running in RAID,
I
right?
am, yeah.
So it
Yeah.
would have been just, pull out the bad drive, put in the new one and let it rebuild.
Exactly. Wait. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess the bigger question is if you if these hard drives are getting to the point where that's a possibility, you're
Uh-huh.
right. You have to think about, okay, well, how would you
Mm-hmm.
upgrade the drives, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I found myself with mine, where it was like, well, I don't want to be without my Synology,
Mm-hmm.
so I just bought a new one and a bunch of drives and rebuild it,
Yeah.
right?
Like I know that if I wanted to upgrade the drives, I could tell it that I'm doing that, safely remove a drive, put a new drive in. But like during that time, like it's gotta take it's gotta compute all those checksums and shit and create the data on the other drive. And it takes time and it's going to be loud because hard drives still make noise, and it does happen to be in my office, and then everything else is going to be slow, and then I'm always going to be worried about well, I'm really hitting those old drives now, like are they going to fail during the during all this work? So I haven't made a decision. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have been on Synology's website a bunch since then. So
Okay.
Mhm.
Because this is fun for me, right?
Mhm.
What are you thinking? Like if you were gonna do it, what are you thinking?
I would probably buy the where is it? The DS1522 Plus. I got a link coming in right here. It is
DS.
their tower configuration, but it's a 5 bay NAS instead of what I have now, which is a 4.
Okay, so it has the 10 gig option, so it has the support for the upgrade up to 50. Okay, so you can do the expansion units,
Mm-hmm.
decent amount of memory. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yours is a 4 banger now,
It is a
right?
4 bay, yeah.
And this is a 5 banger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then compatible drive types. It supports the M2.
Yeah.
How many M2s can go in it?
2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like mine, because you can use it as, a read write cache. So yeah. But I don't know.
I mean, I fully support the decision to upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, and then
We'll
and then
see.
you gotta
We'll
and then you have to go through the process of like migrating all your data.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah.
But if I had the new one, then I could keep the old one up until the things were migrated off of it. I'd feel a lot better. If I really wanted to, I could put it somewhere else and maybe back up my primary Synology to that.
Yeah.
Until it died.
One is none, right?
Exactly.
One is none, as they say.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I sold mine on Facebook Marketplace, and it went pretty quickly, right? I securely erased the drives and met a man in a parking lot to do the lamest drug deal ever, and then, yeah. Okay, well that's cool. So you're running without your cache now, and everything is still working.
100%. Yeah.
So when you look at your Synology, first of all, I'm curious about what your uptime was, because it was like some ungodly number before. And then are you able to see how old your volumes are?
It doesn't say how old they are. I'm looking at the smart data. But I did look at the information for the drive that failed, and it's a ridiculous number. It is almost 9 trillion host write commands. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep. Yeah, and the percentage used 100%, failing now. That's what it says. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever had that happen once. It was one of the first M2 SSDs I ever bought. I think me and my stupid computer upgrades. I think that thing made it into like 4 different computers, and at one point it was just like, yeah, boss, I can't anymore. So I get that. Um, okay, so I'm really curious about this next.
No, I want to talk. I want to talk to you about yours first because it's been a lot of Paul. It's been a lot of Paul. I want some
It has
Drew.
been a lot of Paul, but usually it is a lot of Drew.
I want some Drew.
Okay. All right. We've talked about my gun bullshit on this podcast.
Sure have.
We are coming up to sort of the late summer, early fall shooting season where there's going to be a fair amount of competitions and things that are going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks. And my shooting buddy and I were sort of thinking about, okay, it's kind of time to put up or shut up. We've been kind of futzing around for the past few months now, dialing stuff in, upgrading things, buying things, practicing, going to longer distances and sort of getting things ready. So we're going to have some competitions and things that come up, and that requires practice. And I think I might have mentioned on this podcast before is that, this is an extremely expensive hobby. Ammunition is not cheap. The time investment, the travel investment to go places where that you can actually do this type of sport. It's a lot. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. So, thinking through that, I want to find a better way to practice and a better way to just get better at sort of shooting fundamentals. Every rifle that I have, every gun that I have shoots differently, and building confidence and familiarity with the gun, the way it shoots, the way it recoils, the different controls, the different optics that are on the different firearms that I have, like it's all just reps. Like you just have to kind of go out and do it, right? Like you can you can like sit in your basement, you can like lay on the floor, and you can you can like practice. Like honestly, like one of the hardest problems is when you're looking through your optic and then you shoot, the recoil of the gun will sort of throw your vision out of the eye box of the scope. So like honestly, like a lot of the time that you spend shooting for the follow-up shots, because the way that a lot of these competitions work is that someone says go and you're on a timer and you have a certain amount of time to engage the targets that you need to engage. So obviously if you shoot and hit, you can move on to the next target. Sometimes you can stay in the same position to engage the next target. Sometimes they'll make you get up and move to another like position. Like sometimes you'll be standing, sometimes you'll be kneeling, sometimes you'll be laying down. Like sometimes you'll be able to like rest your rifle on something. Sometimes you'll have to hold your rifle. Like there's the whole course of fire is always one of the great unknowns of these things. But when you shoot, especially a high powered rifle, that recoil goes into your shoulder, and the way that modern scopes kind of work is there's this whole concept of eye relief. Are you familiar with this?
No.
So when you're looking through a scope, there is sort of this sweet spot of how far your eye should be away from like the objective lens. And if you're properly positioned when you have both of your eyes open, if I'm right-handed, so like my right eye is peering through the scope because it's a monocular, right? It's not a binocular, it's binocular. So or monocular. So my right eye is looking through the scope, my left eye is open, and I can, I still have my full field of view, but my right eye is looking through and sees the reticle. If your eye is positioned correctly, there's like no black lines or aberration of the image that you're looking through the scope. That's called eye relief, and every optic is different. Depending on how far forward or back you have the optic mounted on the rifle. It's also affected by how much magnification power you're using. So the eye relief is more generous on lower magnifications than higher magnification. So like if I have my 35 power scope dialed all the way up, my head position does not have a lot of play on where it needs to be. So when the rifle goes boom and it shifts from underneath you and shifts your eye box, you have to sort of like reposition yourself, and hopefully you're able to absorb the recoil effectively so that you can quickly reacquire your image picture, your sight picture, and then shoot again. That's a huge part of what this is how effectively can you manage recoil, not just for accuracy, but for speed. So why am I saying all this? Well, I'm saying all this in that, when you're practicing, recoil management is just one of the facets of the things that you have to take into account. You have to have proper trigger discipline. You have to have proper breathing. You have to be able to balance your rifle, hold your rifle effectively, be comfortable in the different shooting positions. Like, recoil is just one aspect of it.
Okay.
So in order to get better, and practice more, now the question becomes, how do you practice effectively? Like, what is the most cost-effective and time-efficient way of sort of practicing a lot of these fundamentals that, number one, isn't going to beat you up if you go out and fire 100 rounds with a higher-powered rifle, slinging recoil into your shoulder all day, right?
Yeah.
And also not costing you a fortune. So with that in mind, I'm in the process of building in quotes here on purpose, a 22 precision rifle.
Okay.
So are you familiar with the concept of rimfire versus centerfire?
I am not, Drew. Nope.
Okay. So I want you to picture a rifle cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, whether you played shooting man games or you've seen movies of people with bullets, like, when you picture a bullet that hasn't been fired, like, describe what that looks like to you.
So, like, usually there's two pieces, right? So, like, it's in like a shell, right? And then there's the actual projectile, right, that comes out. And for a rifle, those are usually like, if not pointed, but like, like they've got like a tip to them. I'm guessing for better aerodynamics, right?
Yep.
And they can be pretty long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What am I missing?
Now, I want you to like take that image, right? And I want you to like rotate it in your mind, so that the pointy piece is pointing away from you.
Okay, so I'm looking at the end, right?
You're looking at the other end.
Yeah.
What do you think's on the other end?
So usually there's like in the middle there's a spot, and that's where like the hammer hits, and like it makes the whole thing go boom, and and the gun goes bam. So there's a word for it. And I knew
it's called a primer.
Primer, that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And where is it in relation?
It's in the middle.
Yeah. that's where we get the term center fire. A center fire rifle is what we refer to as that, right? Where you have a firing pin or something that strikes a primer in the middle of the cartridge, which ignites the powder, gases expand, gun goes boom, bullet goes wing, right? Like that is center fire. Now, there's a different type of cartridge though, and that's a rimfire cartridge.
I had no idea that existed.
Yeah, so rimfire cartridges are like 22 caliber, right? Let me put this under here. That's a better place for it. So rimfire ammunition works differently. So instead of there being a center fire pin that hits, when you look at a rimfire bullet, there's like this flared part at the base, right? There's no center primer. The primer actually lives in a little ring around the base of the cartridge. And what center fire rifles do is, instead of striking a firing pin into the primer, it sort of like crunches or punctures that primer exterior. So if you're looking at that Wikipedia page, there's a picture of a center fire cartridge next to a rimfire cartridge.
Yeah, I see that.
You can definitely you can see the detent that the pin or the hammer put in the center fire cartridge. Yeah. And then there's like on the one on the left, there's like a little tick, like a little dent. That's how rimfire works.
So it just kind of smushes it, and that starts the chemical reaction.
Exactly. It just crunches it.
Okay. Is there an advantage of one versus the other?
Well, center fire is generally considered to be like, there's going to be a limit to the amount of power and powder you can ignite. In such a way that it ignites cleanly and uniformly with rimfire versus center fire. Plus, the amount of and honestly, the amount of powder you put into a cartridge will ultimately determine how big of a projectile you can sling and how much power and speed is behind it. So anyway, rimfire. So that's like when someone says, "Oh, I'm shooting a 22" or something like that. That what they're really saying is they're doing rimfire ammunition. Now,
Okay.
rimfire ammunition is interesting because it's still it's still a powerful round. Like my particular rifle that I built, it's still going to shoot 1,100 feet per second. And compare that to my other rifles, right? Just to put this in perspective, I'm going to pull up my application here real quick. When I look at something like my original precision rifle, my 308, that has a muzzle velocity of 2,600 feet per second. So these things still move, right? Yeah. They still are moving, but they're not moving like a center fire cartridge. And then like my 300 PRC, like the mile gun, is like almost 3,000 feet per second. So there's more to it than that. Like how much energy does it maintain? How long does it stay supersonic versus transonic? But we're not going to go there. But the main thing I want to kind of get here is that rimfire ammunition is significantly cheaper than centerfire ammunition.
Oh,
okay. It's small. It's smaller. It doesn't use as much powder. Just to put things in perspective, like I think I've said before, where right now for my other high-powered rifles, I'll go to the store and you usually will buy a box of 20 cartridges. And that's anywhere, depending on what I'm buying, anywhere between $40 and $70 for 20 rounds. Okay. It's pretty expensive. Like rimfire ammunition, I'm not joking, like you can literally buy it by the gallon. Like
okay. So
yeah, like you'll go to the store and they'll just be a jug of 22 ammunition. Like it's cheap, it's dirty. It's not manufactured to the same quality. I'm going to put an asterisk next to that to come back to later. But it's not necessarily manufactured at the same quality, and it doesn't require the amount of primer, the amount of brass, the amount of lead. It's just a lower cost, smaller bullet. But for hunting small game, squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, things like that, moles, whatever, like smaller game, I don't think you could kill a deer with it unless you shot it in the head. But it's a really interesting round. Now, what I've decided to do is I wanted to go out and I wanted to build a 22 or rimfire based rifle. Now, when I say build, what I'm ultimately talking about here is like I'm not forging a barrel. I'm not rifling it. I'm not like I'm not necessarily gunsmithing an entire rifle here, which you can do. Okay. When for people who build their own centerfire rifles, they will go out and source a barrel. They will source an action. They will marry those two together, which requires like heat and like extreme amounts of torque. Like you literally like need a machine shop, I think, if you really want to do something like that. But in the 22 space, a lot of things are just sort of drop in. And the way that it works is you go out and you find a rifle that you sort of pick a platform that you want to build on. And then you go out and you start finding parts that you can replace. Very much like building a computer, if I'm being honest. Like it's like, okay, I want this action, meaning the thing that's like the trigger and the chamber type and the bolt type. I want this kind of barrel. I want this type of chassis. I want this type of scope. I want to replace the trigger with something different. I want to get a different scope mount. I want to get a suppressor. I want to get a customized stock that is like built to me. That's the really interesting thing about sort of playing in this space, is that it's really easy to sort of go out and buy something off the shelf and turn it into something that is extremely accurate and ultimately you can use for a very specific type of competition, because there are competitions built around rimfire versus centerfire.
Oh, okay.
They take place at much shorter ranges. So like a centerfire competition will be anywhere from like 300 to 900, even 1,000 yards. Rimfire, like a rimfire competition is going to be 50 yards, 100 yards, 150 yards, or like 300 yards. And it's mostly going to be steel targets instead of paper. Like they're just really fun. And again, like total sunk cost to get to a place where you can compete and go do this is extremely lower than the high power centerfire stuff. So I was thinking about, what would it take to sort of do this? And, like everything else, I did a little bit of research. And what I've done is I've actually built out my own sort of centerfire rifle. And I actually had it out this morning. And I'm absolutely thrilled at how
Oh,
it's
good.
performing.
Good.
Yeah. So just to kind of throw some stats out there for people that are interesting, I have built this on the CZ, which is a Czechoslovakian company. They make a series of rifles called the 457 or 457. They have a million different models, and again, like if you pull up this page, you're going to see that there's like there's like 100 different choices of this same rifle. But the important thing to understand is the part I really care about on this is if you look at each picture really carefully, the bolt, like the thing that you move to like eject a round and chamber another round, it's the same on every one. That's called the action.
Okay.
That is really what you're buying. You are buying the CZ457 action. Literally everything else is replaceable. I bought the CZ457 Varmint AT1. It's closer to the bottom of the page.
Okay.
For a couple reasons. Yeah, so like that one compared to the other ones had a couple features that out of the box would make it easier for me to customize. The first one is it had an upgraded trigger already. And it has a threaded barrel. And the reason that that's important is that I planned on attaching a suppressor.
Okay, yes.
Yep. So if the barrel is already threaded, then that's one less thing I have to replace out of the box.
Okay, yeah.
And this stock has some customizability. I shot it with this stock on it. It's very nice. It looks really nice. It's a very nice gun. But I ultimately replaced that stock with like an actual precision chassis that I'll show you in a second. So like that's what I started with. So a lot of these too don't have rails to mount scopes on. So then you got to figure out, okay, if I'm going to put a scope on this, what do I have to buy next? And that's where you start going out and you start finding these different aftermarket things like these scope bases, right? I got an Area 419. That's a company that makes like aftermarket stuff for firearms. There's a scope base. It's really nice because that has a built-in level because you need to make sure your rifle's level when you're shooting. So like there's a level already built into it. You sort of tap this on to the existing rail, and now you have a place to attach your scope to, for example. The next thing I did was replace the chassis. Now, this is where things start to get like a little out of control, because again, that wood stock looks really nice, but you want to start to build this around a platform, to have a way to add accessories to your gun, to add ergonomics to your gun, so that, like I said, going back to what I said at the beginning, you want a way that when you rest your head on the cheek plate of the rifle, it is always going to be in the position that you want, right? You basically can like adjust it so that I rest my head on it, boom, my eye is going to be right where I need it to be. I don't have to like fidget or like adjust or anything. It's like cheek on rifle, eyes exactly where it needs to be. And if you're looking at that picture of that chassis, if you look at the stock, you're going to see that there's all sorts of dials and levers on that thing.
Yeah.
And it can raise and go up and down. You can adjust the length of pull. So like how far do you want it to be from your shoulder or not? That's what a chassis system basically does. So what you do is you basically take that action out of that existing stock and then you put it in this. And again, this is all drop-in stuff. Like I didn't have to take this to a gunsmith to do this. It's literally just held in with some Allen screws. And just a simple torque, a torque wrench that applies 65 inch-pounds of pressure. Like you take it out, you put it in here, you line it up, you torque it down, you're done, right? Like that's all you have to do. And then you can like I said, like the picture on that website that, the chassis is made by a company called MDT. They make really good stuff, but goddamn, do they overcharge? You can kind of see what it starts to look like. And I think in the picture on their website, they show you how you can put weights on it so you can have it perfectly balanced. it comes with a customizable grip, which makes it more comfortable to grip. And then the other nice thing about this particular chassis is the entire front end of it. And I think it's like the second picture where you're kind of looking at the bottom. It has a built-in ARCA rail, ARCA. So if you've ever worked with cameras before, you may have heard of like Swiss foot ARCAs. ARCA is something that is very, very popular in precision shooting because what it lets you do is quickly slide different bipods or accessories underneath your rifle without having to like screw them down every time. It's like sort of like a clamp system. You literally just sort of unclamp it, slide it on, clamp it down. It's in place. If you want to adjust it, you just release the clamp, slide it, readjust it. It makes it really nice to work with that. And again, it's all built into that. So it's sort of machined out of aluminum where it's already got that rail. I don't have to buy an aftermarket thing to put on it. It has a lot of attachment points for other accessories. It's an extremely nice chassis. And like I said, you basically just, you start with the rifle and you start to build sort of all these different things out. And then like sort of the final piece of this is finding like good quality ammunition to put through it.
Okay.
Sort of the last thing I'll say about this is that rimfire ammunition is generally regarded as pretty low quality. Like I said, I can go into the gun store and I can literally buy a jug. I'm not even joking, like a jug full of 22 ammunition, right? Like when you buy a brick of it, it's usually like 250 rounds and it's like $10. Like it's just not expensive,
okay. Yeah.
right? But like everything else, there is ammunition that is manufactured to higher standards. There's a couple companies, Ely, I think is how you say their name. They're a company that makes like higher grade, like match grade 22 ammunition, which is still like usually comes in little boxes of 50 that are like $20, which is just ridiculously good. And the thing of it is, this doesn't have recoil. Like there's no recoil with rimfire ammunition.
Wow.
So
okay.
when you're out there and you're practicing, that's one less thing you can worry about. You can practice the speed by which you chamber and rechamber rounds. You can quickly send shots down range. You can do all that stuff. And it's just a really nice experience. And it's a very popular place to play in if you want to get into like precision rifle shooting. It's a great place to start. It's also easier to find places to shoot because there's way more 100-yard ranges than there are 1,000-yard ranges.
I'd imagine, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So there's a lot better. There's a lot more places that you can go and shoot. The last thing that I bought for this is I did buy another suppressor.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. I bought a specialized suppressor just for this particular build. It is a Rugged Oculus 22. It's made by the same company that makes my pistol suppressor that I have because I'm really pleased with that. So showing a little bit of brand loyalty. And I had everything out on the range today. I was shooting without ear protection. That's how quiet this is. It sounds amazing. I was shooting at 100 and 300 yards today. I was shooting less than half-inch groups of 22 today, which is just phenomenal at 100 yards. Was really, really pleased with the performance of the rifle and how I was shooting. Stepped it out to 300 and, I was on paper. I was hitting steel. I even hit like a small half-inch steel target at 300 yards today. And again, like it's like economies of scale. Like shooting that kind of distance with that kind of precision with a 22 is a lot like shooting at 700-800 yards with my centerfire rifles. Like because of the performance, of this round versus a high-powered centerfire cartridge, like it's not as powerful. It's a much, much lighter projectile, so it's way more susceptible to wind. So it's every bit as challenging. Like make no mistake, just because it's a lower power round and there's no recoil and all these other things like, 22s are baby guns. Well, no, they're not. Like I would say that they're every bit as challenging to shoot as like a high powered centerfire rifle. It's just a whole different vibe. And, the gun club that I belong to in, north of where I live, they have way more 22 matches than they do anything else, because they are so popular and it is so fun. And, you don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars like I did. You can go to the store and you can buy like a nice quality CZ457 like I did. Throw a Harris bipod on it, throw a decent piece of glass on it for a few $100, and like that's all you need to get started, right? I just have a sickness where I want to like put all the good stuff on it because I'm built different, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was exceptionally pleased at how well it shot today. It was a perfect day for it too. There was like no wind out there. It was hot, so there was a lot of mirage and everything. So that's like a different challenge, and it just was a lot of fun. I was exceptionally pleased with how well it shot. Now, the only kind of open question I have right now is what optic I want to put on this. I did recently upgrade the optic on my Sako, which is my 308, not my big 1 mile rifle. But I bought a very similar scope to what I have on my 1 mile rifle. And I actually took that scope off and put it on this 22 today. And it did really well. But see, the problem is that I'm only going to be engaging out to like 300, 350 yards usually. So I don't need a super high power scope. But on the other hand, these bullets make like really, really tiny holes. So like if I miss, I need to be able to see where I hit. So it's like a little bit of a double-edged sword. So I need to figure out what optic I'm ultimately going to put on there. And I can swap optics back and forth between rifles, but that becomes a pain because every time you swap one out, you have to recheck everything before you go out and like shoot accurately. So like the last thing I think I need to buy for this is an optic. I will eventually replace the barrel. I will eventually replace the trigger. I'm pretty happy with how it's shooting right now. So it's just mostly a question of what optic I'm going to buy. And I mean, look, like usually that's just as much, if not more than the gun. But shout out to, and I've mentioned this company before, like I'm really leaning towards a particular scope manufacturer called Burris. Just reading about different scopes that people run for different competitions and everything. They make a really nice 5.5 to 30 power scope that is similar to the Night Forces that I have. And I just don't like that it's red.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got red bands on it. What's interesting though is if you're looking at the picture, you see how the dial is white.
Okay.
That's actually whiteboard material.
Really?
So when you're shooting stages, if you know what your particular calls are for different elevations, you can mark it. So you can quickly dial back and forth without having to like memorize anything, which I thought was interesting. The scope has a couple other features that are really interesting too. But like the one that I'm ultimately probably going to put on it, if I see if I can find it here really quickly. I don't think I had it up. I think I'm ultimately leaning towards something like, oh, that's not that one. Hold on. Where is it? NX8, MRAD Mill. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Oh, don't tell me they sold it. Oh no, that would make me really sad. Oh, that sucks. I hope they didn't. Let me hold on. Now I'm genuinely curious. Okay, 0.1 MRAD, like new demo, 2 to 25. MRAD. Oh, they have the Tremor Mill XT. Okay, so this is the exact same. Oh no, it's not actually. Shit. So they don't have it. Damn. Looks like they sold it.
Oh, someone got you there. Got before you. Got there before you.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking sort of in that same price range as the Burris. Okay. But they had one that I guess. Oh, well, let me take that off. But I mean, put it this way, it's going to be like a couple $1,000s, really. Okay. Like realistically, I think. I don't see the Mill XT. See, the problem is like they make all these different scopes, but like they have all these different reticles. Like this is the one that I'm also considering. I'll just put a link in here. And the nice thing about this is that this, if you're looking, if you go to that product page, you'll see that like the third picture is a picture of the reticle.
Yes, I was looking at that in the first one too.
Yeah. So like that reticle on the second link that I gave you, both of my other scopes use the same reticle shape.
Okay.
So it becomes a familiarity thing, right? Like I know I'm very comfortable with that reticle. Now the other one's very similar, but like without going into a whole maths discussion, like those little dots are really important.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, those little dots are really important when you're shooting fast. Yeah. So I don't know. Like that's kind of the last piece of what I need to figure out.
Cool.
But yeah, it's really fun, man. Like I would tell anybody that would be interested in like sort of learning about like precision rifle shooting to start here. Don't do what I did. Like don't go off the deep end. But do this.
Cool.
So okay, enough about Drew stuff and stupid gun stuff. What do you got?
Do you want to save this for next week, or you want to go long? Because I think we'll go long if we talk about it.
Let's go a little long.
Okay. So, as you know, I'm a dirty console gamer, right? That's where I play most of my games. I also have a collection of like some retro handhelds, and I have a Steam Deck, right? Well, as you know, recently I bought your computer hand-me-downs, and put that in Zach's computer, upgraded his video card, and that's what he's been rocking. And he loves PC gaming. It's great. It's not for me. I have some shoulder stuff going on. I like controllers, whatever. But I told myself, like, after Zachary got his new computer up and running, or technically your old computer, I had enough parts minus a hard drive to build another gaming PC. And I told myself at some point I would do it. I would give it a try. Okay.
Yeah.
So so this is how things kind of happen. I got this urge, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try it. I dig everything up from the basement. I buy a hard drive. I throw Windows 11 on there. And the first thing I'm like, I have no place to put this thing. None. No place at all. And mostly I have no place. So the monitor I have in my office is optimized for productivity. It's 6Ks. It's only 60 hertz, right? Neither one of those numbers is really great for gaming. Too many pixels, not fast enough. But I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Whatever. It's fine. So I started thinking about what I was going to do, right? And so obviously I drug a monitor up to get everything going, get everything setting up. And I was like, you know what, Paul? You don't have really good space for it. Let's just try game streaming. Okay? Okay. Let's try game streaming. So I've got a series of links coming in here fast. Okay. So there's a tool called Moonlight, right? There's actually Moonlight and Sunlight, but I don't want to get into that. Basically, it allows you to connect to your computer remotely and do like dedicated game streaming, high bit rates, good quality. It was fine. It did work, right? Like I'm still gonna play my games with the controllers because like mouse and keyboard games, I physically can't do it anymore, right? It hurts my shoulder. And there was a lot of things I didn't like about it. One, this thing is ugly. It's still in my office. I'm actually going to take it back downstairs to the basement at some point.
You mean the physical PC?
The physical PC. It's ugly. It's loud. It's got RGBs. Now, granted, I could spend more money and buy a better case and get rid of the RGBs and shit. But like as it is right now,
I have such a good recommendation for you if you're serious. By the way, I have such a good recommendation.
But like, I didn't even if it was like. There's a lot of things about this thing that I just don't like having in my office at all.
I'm looking at my RGBs that are flashing right now, and I'll be honest with you, the reason they're flashing is I don't want the crappy software that it requires to control them installed. Like you know what? Flash away, little moonbeam. You do your thing.
Okay. So I tried it for a bit, and it was fine, but like ultimately I was just like, you know what? I don't think this is for me. Okay, so there's also there's a parallel track to this PC gaming nonsense. Okay.
Okay.
And that is a new podcast that I've been listening to.
Okay.
It is called NPC or Next Portable Console.
Okay.
It's a bunch of people, including like Federico Viticci from like Mac Stories and iOS review fame. And all they do is talk about portable gaming. Everything from Steam Decks to the Legion Goes to everything Anbernic makes, and retro and stuff that runs Windows. They talk about everything. And they've had a few episodes before. It's actually a really good podcast if you're interested in this stuff at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Steam Deck. It's fine. I think it's a little surfboardy. I'm not a huge fan of like the controller layouts, but it works good, and I can play some of my PC games in there. So because of this podcast, I've bought two things. I bought two things. Okay. And they're on two different extremes of this whole thing. Okay. The first one I want to share with you is on the low end. So for me and retro gaming, like, doing emulation and stuff, the Game Boy Advance is always like it holds a very, very dear place in my heart.
Sure.
I love the Game Boy Advance. So I bought this, it's the POW Kitty V10.
The POW Kitty.
POW Kitty.
You
Kitty.
bought it. You bought this.
I bought this. I don't have it yet. I ordered it. It's on order.
Oh,
it's on order.
Okay.
Okay.
Stop.
Mm-hmm.
What color?
I bought, what did I buy? I think I bought
there's one answer. There's only one answer.
Hold on. What did I buy? Shit, I don't remember. Hold on. POW Kitty. And
God,
it's Kitty with D's, by the way.
I know.
I bought transparent black.
Unacceptable. Beige is the answer.
Oh,
beige was the right answer.
okay.
Look at that.
Okay.
I love that. I love that look.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I wasn't. Yeah, that's like the old school NES. It doesn't do it for me. I bought the transparent black. Also, it doesn't do it for me either. But whatever. It's okay. I like the purple buttons. Purple buttons make me smile. This is not like an overpowered like game console, right? It doesn't have thumbsticks. But what it has is a screen that is the same aspect ratio as the Game Boy Advance with perfect pixel doubling.
I completely understand that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem with a lot of emulators is they have a really hard time where they attempt to upscale and it like butchers the original like artistic intent.
Exactly. Yep. So this console is really like it does everything technically up to like PS1 or PSP, though it doesn't have any thumbsticks. But I bought this specifically for Game Boy Advance gaming because of the screen.
Fair.
Okay.
Totally fair.
Okay. So I'm excited to get that. It's going to come over from China. It's going to take a couple weeks, but eventually it's going to be here. And plus POW Kitty. I mean, how can you not? Like, wow, what a absolutely absurd company name. Okay. So the other half of this thing is I've been thinking more about PC gaming and something maybe a little bit bigger or better than the Steam Deck. Steam Deck does have some limitations. So a couple of the hosts on the podcast really, really, really like the Legion Go. It's by Lenovo. It is this.
I was gonna say. Okay.
It is an Okay. I did not buy that, but it is an absolute tank. It's big. It's got a huge screen. It's got detachable like joysticks. Okay,
like
it's like
Switch.
a Switch. Okay. It uses the processor family it uses is like the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme. It's actually a very, very popular chipset for like it's like the top high-end chipset currently for like these Windows based gaming handhelds. Okay. There's actually some 4nm stuff coming out from AMD later this year, but that's not going to be out yet, and it's not technically proven, but it there could be another generation of things.
Yeah. Stay away from Intel right now. By the way, stay away from Intel right now.
The problem I have with the Legion Go is I think that thing is like it hurts me to look at. It is so ugly. I don't like anything about it. Okay? Nothing. I think it's ugly. There are
it looks like a less comfortable Steam Deck.
Yeah. There is a lot of Chinese companies in this space as well, and I wasn't super interested in that. There is like another kind of flagship competitor in this Legion Ghost space, and that is the Asus ROG Ally. Okay, no, wait. Okay, so the ROG Ally famously has a couple of problems. One, apparently it destroys SD cards. Destroys SD cards. And the battery life hasn't been very good, and it like runs hot, and apparently like Asus customer support hasn't been the best. Whatever.
I am an Asus apologist. I have built most of my systems using Asus components over the years. That company has taken a little turn for the worse.
Yeah. But they have announced and are coming out with, it's kind of like this. It's the ROG Ally X. Okay.
X.
Okay. So
X gonna give it to you.
Okay. So just in general, the one thing that ROG Ally has that other gaming consoles do not is a variable refresh rate screen.
Yes.
And people really like the Ally because sometimes, you're playing these games and you have a generally underpowered machine and your frames may drop. When that happens, it just looks better when that happens on a variable refresh screen. They have announced the ROG Ally X, and it does a few things. One, it's no longer white, it's black. They have doubled the battery life. They have totally overdid the cooling. They've moved the SD card, and they upped the RAM from 16 to 24 with the intention, because it's a shared memory pool. The intention is dedicated 8 gigs to the video card and 16 to operating system in the games, so things run better. Even that's totally adjustable. They come out on Monday, so the time you are listening to this, they will be out. And I ordered one.
Okay.
Link.
All that RGB, huh?
You can turn it off or make it a single color. I looked into that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did a lot of like watching YouTube videos because like content creators have had this in their hands, and they can talk about everything except for numbers. Asus has been really weird about that.
They're extremely weird about that.
But generally, everyone who's held it has said like, "Hey, this is amazing." If it wasn't for the fact that like Asus wasn't like kind of a little shitty company right now, this would be the easiest like handheld to recommend. I actually bought mine through Best Buy instead of buying it through Asus. So
I see that you can pre-order. Yeah, I was clicking on the buy links.
Right.
It looks like the Asus site is sold out.
Yeah, and everyone just generally said like, "Hey, if you're thinking about buying this, maybe buy it from Best Buy." Because like, it's easier to return, and if you give them like an extra, I think I spent an extra $20 and got a shitty warranty on it, but like they actually honor it instead of like Asus.
Huh.
So everyone basically said like, hey, if you're gonna buy it, like, and you're worried about issues, just buy it from Best Buy so you don't have to worry about it. Generally, they'll just like give you a new one and not worry about it. So I ordered one, and it will be here next week.
Man, you got all kinds of stuff coming.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, I watched a lot of people talking about this thing. It does run Windows, which is gross, but like the Armory Crate software that kind of like gives you kind of a front end actually doesn't look. Okay. I'm not gonna say it looks great, but it looks good. I think it is better than that. Whatever the shitty thing is,
it's not.
So they have a new version coming out with the X.
It's not good.
I don't know. I've looked at it. It looks okay.
I have it.
No. Okay. It's not good. Okay. Well. Okay. All right.
The Armory Crate software is kind of I hear you, and as someone again who has been in the Asus ecosystem for a while. I do like that they unified a lot of their crappy software that they would, you would have to basically install 8 different programs if you wanted to modify different parts of your motherboard or your performance inside of the OS.
So this, what this also does for the ROG though is it's a front end for all your games.
Okay. All right. I mean, I get it.
So that's what it is, right? It basically, like how like SteamOS has that kind of look. It gives you something to be able to attach all your gaming services, browse and launch your games and control settings without having to touch Windows. And compared to everything else out there, it looks the best for that.
I absolutely do not doubt that statement. And I'm not trying to be overly negative because I'm very excited for you to try this. I have not had pleasant experiences with Armoury Crate in Windows. And I use, and like, when you do a fresh install of Windows, like it literally pops up and says, "Hey, do you want me to install Armoury Crate?" And I cannot click no fast enough. Like, now here's the thing though. Like that's how you control like the RGB crap on your desktop.
Yeah.
So like what's nice about this is that I feel like the RGB stuff on your motherboard is programmable so that as long as like your battery doesn't run out or you do a BIOS update, like I can install the Armoury Crate software, go in there, make all the colors that I want, and then
turn
uninstall.
It off. Yeah.
Yep. No, uninstall. Just like completely uninstall. And then like it'll survive until my next like BIOS update. So yeah, I hear you, buddy, and I hope it works well for you.
We'll see.
I like that the bloatware stuff you have to install for PC components now is just out of control, which is why I'm happy, by the way. Like Windows, like some of that RGB color control is starting to make its way into Windows now.
Yeah.
Certain vendors are certifying, so they're like, like famously, like back when I was doing my computer with water in it, I had to have software to control my fan colors. I had to have software to control my motherboard colors. Like it was like a different controller for everything. So yeah, I have a very, very what's the word I'm looking for? Distasteful view of Armoury Crate. But maybe the fact that this is like, there's not going to be non-Asus components.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
it's
maybe it'll be better.
Yeah. And essentially it gives you a controller friendlier way to do a lot of the stuff that otherwise you would have to do for Windows. Because one thing you would notice about the ROG Ally, it has no trackpads.
Right.
So it is controller only, and using Windows looks cumbersome at best.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm cautiously excited about it. Also know that like if I pull this thing up and it's like, oh no, it's gonna go right back in the box and get returned. Like there is no like this thing is gonna have to wow me like relatively quick, or it's gonna go right the fuck back. So which is another reason I also bought it from Best Buy, because I could just take it to the store and say, I don't want this anymore. And they'll go, yes, sir, and give me my money back. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll see. And at some point this weekend, I'm going to take this big, ugly PC down into my basement and never look at it again, because
so
can I stand it.
Can I make if you really want to make your computer look better?
Okay, what would I buy?
I have a killer recommendation.
Okay.
And I'm actually thinking about this for my next build, whenever that is. Let me pull up the. So first of all, here I'm just gonna put this link. I want to explore this with you in the time we have left. So there's a company called Fractal Design. They make very, very good cases. I currently have a Fractal. But the next generation of stuff that they're building is amazing. So if you go to that website and go to products and go to cases, I would recommend to you the North.
Oh, but no. I'm not having wood panel. No, it's hideous.
Okay, fine.
It's
fine. Then I would look. I don't think you have the right form factor. But they also have the Node, which is pretty nice. The Meshify is also very nice.
Okay, Meshify.
And you can I think you can get them without like glass panels on the side. They're very breathable. They're very, very good cases for airflow, because you know me and my temperatures.
I do.
Yeah. But some of their newer cases on some of the smaller form factor stuff, like the Mood and the Era, and I really really like the look of the Terra. It has wood. I know you don't like it, but Micro Center has those, and I actually got to get my hands on one. They're very sturdy and they look very nice. Like if I was going to build a computer that would like be attached to like my media center, this is the kind of shit that I would put near it.
Okay.
So these are very good cases. They're very well built. Honestly, like the North is very good. The Meshify is also very good. The Define, I think I have a Torrent right now, which I don't think you want that. The Pop is also really nice because it doesn't have like all the edges. So like they have the Pop Silent. Like each one of these have different little what's it called? Different like subcategories. And I think you can get them with like solid side cases and not like so you can see all the RGB shit. I think that's the important thing. But most computer cases have like stuff you can see through the side.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
I would extremely strongly recommend the Meshify, like the Meshify 2 XL, which has the solid side panel. I think would be perfect for you. And I don't know if you can get.
Yeah, I can.
White.
See, yeah, I see all those different options. Yeah, you can get something with a little. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, the Meshify 2. Yeah, that's not bad.
That not only is that a very nice looking case, it is a very very good performing case because that front mesh panel supports a lot of fans and radiators, and Fractal is kind of my go-to right now for recommending computer cases.
I'm really hoping that Ally just kind of scratches the itch enough, and that I'm happy because, like, booting into Windows and like having the fans and I don't know.
I know.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I get it. It's not for everybody.
No, it's and I don't think it's for me anymore. I mean, maybe it would be different if I had a good place to put it. Right? Like a dedicated place where I could put like another desk and like have a monitor and, you know, get one of these cases that don't make me want to barf. Like right now I just don't have that in my house. I've got 2 kids instead. So I don't know. We'll see.
Cool.
Oh.
All right. That's an episode, bud.
That's an episode.
Get us out of here.
As you know, you can go to doingtheirbest.com. You can find all the show links, everything about the show, everything you want to know, as long as it's about this show, is on that website. And hey, thanks for listening.